Good old Masahiro Big Whip Sakurai is working on brand new games, which begs the question on whether or not that may or may not be a new Smash Bros. Title, but if you ask me, I sure as frig hope not. It's not like I hate Smash Bros. Or anything like that, it's just that I don't think the world needs another one, and if you give me like
7 minutes and 56 seconds.
I'll tell you why.
You're still here after my critically acclaimed intro, then you're probably thinking to yourself, man, this guy must be some kind of a rotten scumbag Freemason with a small peepee. How can anybody not want another Smash Bros. Game? However, I can assure you that I am most definitely not rotten, nor a scumbag, nor a Freemason. I just don't really see the point in making another Smash Bros. Game when the most recent one we currently have right now is already literally ultimate. I mean, seriously, there's 110 different characters if you include all the DLC and alts. Not to mention all the Mii Fighter costumes if you count those, which I don't really myself. Not only that, but there's 103 stages, like 42 billion spirits, and well over 2.5 minigames with representation from 190 different gaming franchises. Getting the rights to all these different franchises can't be cheap either, which is probably why so many of them are a part of the DLC. This was basically Nintendo's slick way of charging $115 for the full game, or $163 if you want all the Mii costumes. I'm not saying it's a scummy tactic or anything like that, seeing as how the base game's still jam-packed with content, not to mention all the free updates being tossed in the mix as well, so I mean, you don't really have to buy the DLC, but you're pretty much fully expected to. In fact, I got duked on all over the place just for saying I wasn't gonna buy the second Fighter's Pass, knowing full well the only character I was interested in actually playing as was Sephiroth. I could've just bought Sephiroth by himself, but again, I was more than content with over 100 characters, so my mentality was either all of the second Fighter's Pass or none of it. Somehow I was considered a turd for not just blindly buying everything.
I have to buy a ticket, I have to buy a ticket, I got to buy.
My point is that if Nintendo made another Smash Bros. Game, then they probably couldn't bring all these third-party franchises and characters back with just a $70 price tag, so there'd probably have to be a lot of roster cuts. Hardcore competitive fans might argue that this would actually be better for the franchise, but at this point, a big part of the appeal to Smash Bros. Is the overly bloated roster from way too many franchises, so why take that away with a new game? And it kind of strips Smash Bros.' identity away. Like seriously, how you gonna go from calling a game Super Smash Bros. Ultimate to calling it Super Smash Bros. Pretty good if you think about it. Doesn't exactly roll off the ass, does it? That's not to say the Smash Ultimate should be stuck on the Switch forever and ever till the end of time or anything like that, though. Like, maybe I'm giving Nintendo a little too much goodwill here, but they could always just leave the DLC up for sale going forward. With copies of the game on sale forever, Smash Ultimate would still be a moneymaker for Nintendo for decades. You might say that fans that eventually get tired of the same game, but they could always just add more fighters and freshen things up every now and then. Hell, if it's money Nintendo wants, then wouldn't this be their best bet? I mean, why make an entirely new game with half the content for $70 when you can just add a few characters for like $25 or $30? This way Nintendo would get their money that they seem to like so much, and fans would get to keep literally everybody. Plus, it'd give developers like Namco's new studio dedicated to Nintendo games time to work on other IPs. Let's not forget about Masahiro Big Whip Sakurai either. This guy took years off of his life to work on Smash Bros, and he still wants to make other games, so why not just friggin' let him already? I mean, wouldn't that be a lot better than him remaking the same game with less content? Of course, you could just make a new Smash Bros. Game without him, but the guy's a lot like Larry David was with Seinfeld. Larry David wanted to quit Seinfeld years before he actually did, but he kept coming back every year because he couldn't stand the idea of somebody else continuing to work on his baby without him. Then once he finally did quit, the show just wasn't as good, and that's exactly what could happen to Smash Bros. If we let someone who's not Masahiro Sakurai work on it. Or hell, maybe he'd be better, I don't know. Maybe making a good Smash Bros. Game really isn't all that complicated, but again, we already have the ultimate one right here with way more content than any of us ever had any right to ask for. Like, sure, there's always gonna be ingrates out there who are mad that Error from Zelda 2 isn't on the roster, but given how well the game did and still is doing, I'd say that just about everybody's happy. Except for the Melee fans, of course, so you could argue that they should at least make one more game that plays a lot more like that, but the thing about Melee fans is, quite frankly, they're just never gonna be happy anyway. They wouldn't even be happy with a Melee remaster. Hell, they can't even enjoy Melee on the GameCube without bickering over the differences between the NTSC and PAL versions. Look, I don't even mean for this to be a total roast on the Melee base either. I'm just saying that it's pointless to readjust the gameplay, because it's never gonna be perfect no matter what. I mean, everybody's got their own opinions on who needs to be nerfed and buffed. Even if a new Smash game came out that felt like a perfected Melee, that'd probably be Ultimate fans would be bummed. Or even worse, what if a new Smash came out with gameplay that resembled neither that everybody hated to really de-ultimize the experience even further? What would likely happen is that the majority of fans wouldn't even notice the gameplay changes anyway, but regardless of the scenario you go with, it never really makes sense to take more years off of Sakurai's life and hold other games up just to essentially remake the same game, most likely with less content, as I said before. When they made Ultimate, they didn't just copy and paste Smash 4 from the 3DS and Wii U, they apparently restarted it all from scratch. From the Wii U version's game engine, which I guess still counts as from scratch. Then after that, Nintendo continued to fine-tune and add content to it over the next few years, with Sakurai locked in a dungeon with nothing but a computer, microwaved hot dogs, and Bengay. Don't get me wrong, I'm all for locking Uncle Saki in a dungeon to make entertainment for the rest of us, but at least let him work on something new. Don't tempt him by making another Smash Bros, just keep the game we got and update it forever going forward. Sure, Sakurai would probably want to partake in these updates, but at least it wouldn't be as demanding as a brand new game from scratch as long as you don't crank the updates out, of course. Even if the Sackmaster wanted to make more Smash Bros games, then great. Let him make as many updates and DLC as he wants. All I know is that the Smash Bros game we've currently got right now is far bigger than anything we could have ever imagined. You might not think that if you looked at how demanding a lot of fans could be on the internet for even more characters, as if the roster's some kind of a Hall of Fame or something, but the game's friggin' massive right now. It's completely fine if you like another game in the series more, but you can't call Ultimate a poor attempt, and most would have to admit that it's probably the best middle ground between competitive gameplay and casual appeal. Personally, I think casuals wouldn't know the difference between Ultimate and Melee's gameplay anyway, but my point is that Ultimate's just fine the way it is. More content would always be welcome, sure, but while a brand new game would still be fun, I'd vehemently argue that the time and effort it'd make to make a brand new entry to the series wouldn't be worth it for us as fans. Not Smash Bros fans, but Nintendo fans in general. I mean, seriously, there's still so many other things we can get if we don't see a new version of the same game that already pulled out all the stops, except with less stops this time. Even if I was wrong to give Nintendo so much credit before as far as honoring Smash Ultimate purchases going forward with backwards compatibility in all the future consoles, then fine, go ahead and make another game, but at least pull a Madden where you just kinda adjust the gameplay and add some more content and call it something new. Obviously without cutting any content, of course. But for the love of Peter, don't restart the whole thing from scratch, because 80% of the casual consumers won't even notice the slight changes anyway. Even those who do probably still prefer an older game. At best, fans would be indifferent to gameplay changes, and at worst, they'll outright hate it. So even though I don't personally like the idea of Nintendo pulling a Madden with a new Smash Bros game for financial reasons every year, at least it'd mean that they wouldn't have to use so much time and effort on it that could instead be focused on a ton of other Nintendo IPs that we don't already have right now.
Anyway, that's all for today, but if you got a kick out of my incoherent rambling and disturbing imagery though, then you should check out this video I made ranking every single Smash Bros character from good to evil. And yeah, I know Wicked Binge made that video, but I made it first, although I did rip the concept off from them. Besides, a lot of the comments said they forgot Donkey Kong, but I haven't watched it, so I don't know. Later!